We're very excited to be joined by Scott Edwards today. Thank you so much for joining us, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
So where did you grow up? We'll start right at the beginning. Where did you grow up? When did you get introduced to basketball?
Yeah, I grew up in Cowichan Valley on Vancouver Island. Went to Cowichan High School. Multi-sport kid, as most kids were back in the 80s. Not good at anything, but played everything.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to basketball probably around grade 9, to be honest, before I really started taking it seriously. And played through grade 12, but not past high school.
So where did you go to university after that?
I came up here actually to the University of Alberta. Spent a couple of years at Malaspina College and started an ed program there, and then came up here to finish that degree off, and I've stayed here ever since.
Okay, well, it's worked out, so that's good.
Yeah, so far.
Now let's talk about coaching.
Sure.
How'd you get into coaching?
Yeah, as soon as I got to Edmonton and started my undergrad experience, I met some people in the education faculty. At that time, coaching was still going to be a pathway to a job, right? So you could get hired if you knew how to coach. You're going to get you're going to get a job in education somewhere. And so some people in university that I met were really just working with community league sports at the time in Edmonton, and that was a great starting spot for me since I didn't really know anything, and I'm 19 to 21 years old and just getting started. So I got involved with that. It was basically junior high boys, community league basketball, started with that. And then as I got near the end of my university career, started wanting to get into coaching too, started looking at doing the NCCP levels, and then started right away as I got started with my teaching career, junior high teaching, right away into coaching with that. And that was probably the reason I got hired.
So you started as a high school coach. How long did you do that for?
I coached junior high basketball and taught junior high for 10 years in Edmonton. And coached at the same time. Obviously, everybody at your junior high has to coach and participate. So
Absolutely.
I coached both boys and girls teams there. And then I got hired as an assistant at Concordia University College here in Edmonton in the ACAC. And that's how I kind of transitioned out of the youth sport, really.
Absolutely. So then now the story gets interesting because you start there as an assistant coach and talk about how the team does and how you end up becoming the head coach.
Yeah. It was a really fun and unique experience as a coach to get started at college level. It was not a brand new school, but a brand new program into the college league in Alberta. So the first year that I was an assistant was the very first year that Concordia had a team, and that was quite an experience. Head coach ended up only staying for one season. He wanted to move on. Athletic director and him didn't really see eye to eye, and so they agreed that they would part ways. But that first year, learning from him and just getting a taste of what the ACAC level basketball would be like, or what recruiting would look like, what running a college program could look like, was really instrumental in helping me out. And then, I don't know what I did during that season, but the athletic director at that time saw something in me as a young coach and wanted to give me a shot and said, offer me the job right away that spring. And so 1 year college assistant coaching, and all of a sudden I'm running the program.
No kidding. I mean, that's unbelievable. So
yeah.
you get the job. How's your team?
Not good. We went that first year, I tell the kids now, we were 0-24 in the ACAC that year. I think we lost by an average of around 42 points a game. We had some great kids. They worked hard, but the talent level wasn't there, right? We had a bunch of girls that played on the soccer team, still loved basketball, so they played. So just to cobble together a team really for that first season. When I took over as the head coach, I was there for 6 years as the head coach. Those first couple of years, my first team, 2-22, 6-18, 11-13. We just started to build some things. And just getting started with realizing, for me as a young coach, understanding what kind of athletes were going to come to that university, what type of student was going to be really interested in that place. And it was a really great lab really for understanding how to recruit and understanding who you are and what your program should be about. And to start something from scratch and have no preconceived notions of what it could be. There was 0 alumni, nothing to uphold. You could totally transition it the way you wanted to see it and mold it the way you wanted.
Well, and the other thing is you get to try some things that you're not really sure might work. Whereas,
Oh yeah.
at the University of Alberta, you're not really allowed to just kind of.
No, not at all.
It's time to win. We're here to win. This is what we're here for. And so
exactly.
when you start, when the team's got 0 wins, it's like, hell, if we get 4, we're pretty good here.
I know. We would. You're totally right. We would try some crazy things basketball-wise that no one else in the league was doing. We were trying to find a niche that kids would. Something that kids would want to play under, a style of play that would work, that they would be excited about, try to attract some kids that had no interest in going to that school before if we were going to get better, right? And so, yeah, you're right, like total freedom to try some things out, fail at things. It really didn't matter. We were going to lose a bunch of games anyway. But just trying to get kids on board to what a program could look like. That was an exciting experience.
Absolutely. Did you have one recruit that you knew when you got her, it was all going to be different?
Yeah, we got a kid. It wasn't even my recruit. It was the previous head coach, Gary. Her name is Shauna Siemens, and she was just a rebounding demon. I've done this for 20 some odd years now, and I have very rarely seen a kid who could rebound the way she did. And the way she tracked the ball, the way she just was relentless on both ends of the floor. And it was a lot of fun. You could see she was 6 foot, nice athlete, not really interested in it. And I don't think like offensively talented enough to go play in the CIS at the time, U Sports now. It was a much smaller league back then, right? So
yeah.
She wouldn't have had the opportunity to play university. So she was just perfect for the college level. And it was just a lot of fun to coach. A relentless worker, farm kid who just like loved coming into the city and just a new life. So you could see, I could see through her what college basketball should look like, and then what university ultimately will look like for me going forward. But that was the first kid I got that was pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. So your team starts to win now, and talk about the rise from people. I've had the opportunity to win very few games in the past.
Yeah.
And not very many people who coach for long periods of time have actually, gone 4-25 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know what it's like. It's hard and mentally.
It's really hard.
And it's more mentally hard than anything because as a competitor, you're not okay with losing. And so when every game you go into it and you just get thumped. Like I remember Winston Brown's team, he beat us 99-19 my first year at STA when I went back. And it was like, thanks for helping. I appreciate it, bud. And so you got to build it up. So talk about that journey and getting to, by the time you were wrapping it up over there, you guys were very, very good. So talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I had a very similar early experience. It wasn't with Winston, but my first ever college game, I lost 98-18. And
wow,
that's it. Right?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I felt really good about myself, and I tell the story a lot in coaching clinics because the head coach of the opponent at the time when he shook, I was the assistant still, but the head coach couldn't make the game, but it was my first time being a head coach, and when the game ended, he shook my hand. He said they really missed their head coach today. And I'm like, okay, man, like now I'm all in. I don't know if I was going to be a university coach at that time of my life, but I was all in for this. Right. So that competitive energy you talked about, I was in, man. He saved everything about my life. He made me a coach.
That's funny. Have you told him that story?
No, I don't think I've seen him in 20 years. So
okay. That's funny.
One day I'll see him and we'll have a laugh about it, but I don't even think he'd remember. But it's one of those things, right?
Totally. You remember for sure, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So you start there and you start building. Talk about the build.
Yeah. So we were 2-22, like I said, the first year when I was a head coach, and we did start to get some athletes. What we realized was the kind of kids that would really fit for that university. And so we started to find some more athletes, and we built this 6-18 the next year. And that was an exciting experience for us because the first time we didn't finish last in the conference.
You get the win. We won.
We got the win, right? So we had a party at the end of the season, a huge cake in the team room when we won the last game of the year.
That's
the
awesome. Cake
said, "We're not the worst." We just celebrated everything about not losing anymore, right?
Absolutely, and you have to.
And you have to, right? And you would have thought that we just won the conference, man, the way the girls came into that team room. And it totally propelled them into training that spring. We go 11-13 the next year with a really young group of kids, but they were hungry and aggressive and they wanted to win. And they started to come. I started to find some athletes from programs who could win, whether they were small town rural kids who wanted a 1A or 2A level, or the odd athlete from Edmonton who was really interested in our school. And then we made playoffs for the first time. Now we got smoked, and we were out to a team that did really well. And Lethbridge College at the time was a real powerhouse in our league and nationally, and we deserved to lose for sure. But it was a great experience for us. And then that next season, we end up getting a couple of transfers in. Older, like kids on our team grew, and we go 19-5 and make the ACAC Final Four and have a shot to go to nationals. And we kind of blow that too, but it's one of those, everyone just finished watching the Bulls stories. You got to go through people, right? And so lose to Lethbridge again. They go on to win nationals. And the best part of that season, that next year when we lost, was the night that Lethbridge won the national championship. I got a call from the security guard at Concordia because my kids had broken into the weight room. Right? He's like, "What do you want to do with this?" I'm like, "Can you just let them be? I'll come over and hang out." It's like 11 o'clock at night. They were just, it's probably not that late, but in my head, it seems like that now. But it was a great story, right? And they just wanted to train, and they just knew that they could be better, and they were mad that they knew that we left a game on the floor when we lost them in the conference championship. They felt like they did. To watch that team go on and win it all was a big deal to them. And so then you see things evolve for us, and all of a sudden we get going. It's the same group back the next year, and we go on to win a national title. And that anytime you win a national championship at whichever level, there's some things that go into it. You got to have some luck. You've got to stay healthy, or you've got to have great chemistry, or you just got to have the right kids at the right time, or the right group. And so that group of athletes that had stayed from the year before, and at college, that's not always the case, right? We see that in the back west of the ACAC. The core doesn't always stay together, and that core did for 3 years. So, they miss out on nationals, they win a title, and then in my last year at Concordia, we were the number 2 ranked team in the country all year, but Mount Royal was number 1 all year, and there was one team in the country we couldn't beat, and we couldn't get by them. But there was only one team from the ACAC who could go on to nationals that year, and so we didn't get the chance to try to defend our title against them. We lost them in the conference final, probably like the 4th time that year, and that was it for me at Concordia, and I was ready to move on to U of A.
So unbelievable. So I mean, there can't be too many stories where you go and whatever, and then you win the national championship. So that's got to feel pretty good. And then so you're finished that at Concordia. What happens at University of Alberta that gives you the opportunity to step in there?
Yeah. I've found that over the course of my career, I've either been the lucky person at the right time or just happened to be around at the moment. But I got the Concordia job because the head coach left, and then at U of A, the timing was right. That Trix Baker was the head coach at the time. She'd been there 15 seasons, wonderful career as a player and a coach. She's a legend in our program. She's still it's her program still. So but she wanted to take a leave of absence. So she had planned to take a year off, and she had an assistant coach at the time who was like the first graduate of our master's in coaching program. And Kathy had sort of been groomed, and everyone sort of assumed, and all of us in our community here assumed that Kathy would be our next head coach, and she was great. But she realized that her life was taking her in a different direction. She didn't really want to be a head coach. I mean, as a university head coach, she just wanted to stay on as an assistant. So, for Trix, I guess, lucky enough, I was around. I was a single guy at the time, just got married actually, no kids, in the city, working hard, and I could take the time, and I was willing to come in and do the job for the year as an interim coach. And Kathy stayed on as my assistant that year, which was great. And and the team had struggled for a couple of years. They'd been a non-playoff team for about 2-3 years leading up to that period of time, but they had a great core of young kids who had, like you said before, they'd kind of gone through their lumps too. They'd gotten their tails kicked for a few years, but they stayed together, and they were, by the time I got to them, they were like third years where they had started every game together. We had a great 5th-year leader, nice 4th-year guard, and just a great group of kids who really wanted to take the next step in their development as players, and stuck it up together, which I was really proud of them for. And through a lot of losing, not a lot of people will be willing to do that, right? They usually find an excuse and a reason to go, and they didn't. They totally stuck together, and I come in that first year and we made the national final. Like we lose to Bruce's great team when Weigel and Hole were rookies, and that was a phenomenal clan team. But what a great season for them, right? We made the conference championship in Canada West. We make the national championship, lose by 4. That I've never watched the game since, so it's still hard to take. But it was a great start for me. And then Trix ultimately ended up deciding not to come back again after her sabbatical. She decided to retire, and so lucky enough that the university hired me after that year.
Well, it's good timing. I mean, you go to the final, it's tough to get rid of the guy. So,
no doubt.
What an unbelievable story there. And the team was very good right off the top, but also like people don't really appreciate how good those SFU teams back then were. And so the fact that coming off of, some not very good seasons, going right to the national final and giving them a game in the final, I mean, that was a major I still remember that game. I mean, it was an unbelievable game. You guys had a shot to win that thing.
Oh yeah. That was I think we're like throughout the season, we probably snuck up on people because they hadn't been successful going into it. But by the time we got to playoffs, we had a great series with the Saskatchewan Huskies who had been to nationals the year before. It was Sarah Crooks's last season. We have just a bloodbath of a 3-game series, and amazing experience for us. Go to the conference championship. We actually beat Simon in the Can West semis by 20 at UBC and feel great. And then the following week, of course, we lose. So that's an old coach, young coach experience. I'll give Bruce that one.
Yeah.
But,
that happened all the time back then, though. I mean, I remember Simon would beat UBC, and then UBC would beat him in nationals, or UBC, and it would just Vic would beat Simon, and then somebody would beat Vic. Like there was really good teams in the Canada West. They were always winning. There was the best team in the Canada West was pretty much in the Final Four, and it was whether you were going to win the national championship or not.
Yeah, and you're right. Like especially in the 2000s, it was not uncommon to see 3 medalists from Canada West out of the 3 medals at nationals, or just a credible group of teams throughout the conference. And we weren't lucky enough to win one in that era, but we were right there with them all the time, and it was a fun experience to get started.
Absolutely. So you go to national final. What happens after that? How's the you're now in charge. You find out you're the coach. What's it like to take over, and what type of things are you doing to kind of solidify yourself in the position and make sure you're doing things the right way?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was, again, I had gone to U of A, but understanding the type of athletes that were going to be attracted to our institution, where in our community in Western Canada would be the type of people that would want to play at our school, live in this city, enjoy the experience of being a Panda. As you said earlier, like playing at University of Alberta is not easy, and so it takes a certain kind of a person to come here. It's an institution where every school is expected to go to every team at our school is expected to go to nationals every single season, and so there's no pat on the head for a 15-5 season. You had a great year, but you lost in a tough quarterfinal. They don't put up with that.
Yeah.
So that's not who they're about. And so it's really, for me, with that first part of it was trying to understand the type of athletes that could handle the environment of our institution. They could handle the academics. It's a tough place to go to school, and they could handle playing at a place where you're not going to get any accolades unless you win it all, right? And so that's been quite a unique experience, I think, across the country. And there's lots of great schools like that too that are similar. But I think U of A, just top to bottom, across all of athletics, is one of those places that's just a really unique space. And so it makes it a challenge to recruit the right type of people. And so I think we've done all right. I mean, we've made quite a few Final Fours, made nationals 7 times in my time here. So we've been there, but haven't gotten over the hump, haven't got back to that final yet. So still pushing.
I mean, it's it's hard. And so one of the things that's happened in the CIS is with more players going down south. A lot of it's tough to keep the top players here. So talk about maybe getting kids to come back. Maybe talk about what it's like to be able to land a kid that can go down there. I mean, you guys have some of the best facilities in North America, let alone Canada. So there's definitely a lot to sell there. But talk about that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, the NCAA experience, for those top end athletes. Alberta as a spot in the country really hasn't been hit by that like exodus of athletes very often. It's usually been one-off or two-off kids that you see once in a while. They realize, I think part of it is just geography. I mean, Edmonton's a 9-hour drive from the border, so no one's driving up here. You know, the closest school is Gonzaga. They're not coming up all that often to watch. And so you don't see those kids having that ideal very often up here, or they haven't showed that. So we haven't really experienced a lot of, in our community, basketball-wise, of kids leaving as we would like in the Lower Mainland, right? So when they came up with a rule that in youth sports where they were going to allow the athletes to come home if they wanted to without any penalty, my athletic director is very excited for us because basketball, obviously women's basketball is one of the sports in the country that they're very worried about, and the top kids leaving all the time. And I said, I'm not sure it's really, and it has not worked this way, that they're going to want to come this far north. Mostly, if they're not from here, they're usually going to stay close home. If it didn't work out in America, you're usually going near your home. And so that really hasn't impacted us too much. We have mostly, like recruiting-wise, just sort of focused on generally our local athletes, try to build them up through junior programming and club stuff, and then try to get them excited about playing here. And so we haven't really worried so much about those athletes. If they want to come, great. I mean, you're right. Like athletics facility wise, I got 12 courts they can work out from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. if they want to. Our weight room is phenomenal. It's world class. We've got PhDs running our strength and conditioning program. Like this is a great place to play, but you know, just finding, again, as with every institution, you're trying to find the right athlete that fits for your school and for your program and your identity. And, you know, that's a unique experience that we're all trying to struggle with now with so many schools in our league too.
Absolutely. There's definitely been, the number of schools is probably doubled, but yeah. You know, I'm gonna take you back to something that I think was probably pretty enjoyable for you. Back when you coached Canada Games.
Yeah.
You guys had a very nice team there.
We did, yeah.
I don't think people really understood how good your team was. Like you had a lot of really good players.
Yeah, we did.
They were gritty and they were tough. We ended, you know, Paul and I were coaching that team back then, and we, you know, people thought we had the greatest team in the world, and I'm like, you know, like we really like our team, but have you guys seen this team? Like,
yeah.
And I think people forget how good Quebec was that year. Quebec had a couple big time players.
Yeah, Naira was on that team. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Naira Fields was on that Quebec team.
Unbelievably. And then the post player, I can't remember her name, but she was spectacular.
I can't either. Yeah, she was phenomenal.
She was a big deal. And so, you know, we ended up beating them to play you guys in the final, and you guys just beat us up. And I remember, but also like, because you had the twins and you had your scorer there.
Colburn,
unbelievable. She could have scored,
great scorer.
And I loved your point guard. And I remember
Jamie,
Yeah, I mean, I loved your point guard. So I mean, must have been that game was nationally televised for a high school age game. That only happens very rarely. So I mean, talk a little bit about that team and what that kind of experience was like.
Yeah, I mean, you were right. I mean, your BC team was great too. We had 2 great games at the tournament that year, and that group of Alberta kids had lost as 15s twice in the final. They had lost as 16s. I remember when we were I can't remember what city. Well, maybe we were in PEI the year before as well. But I remember losing in the final the year before when we were all 16-year-olds. We lost to Ontario, and when the Ontario kids walked on the court, Nada Chon was on that team. Kayla Alexander's on that team.
That was a squad, that one. I remember that Ontario team.
Yeah, they were unreal. And I remember they walked by, like our kids are stretching on the baseline, and they walked by, and they came onto the court, and I knew before the tip-off that we were going to get smoked. They were just in awe of these Ontario kids. But it was a great experience. It
was justifiable, by the way.
Yeah, it was totally justifiable. But they learned a lot, right? There were 3 years they had kind of blown one as 15-year-olds, that same core group of kids. They had Ontario beat and then blew it. And then going back the next year, we like kind of like you said, we thought we were pretty good that year when they were 16, and then they didn't accomplish it, but they were really hungry. And by the time we got to Canada Games that year, that group of athletes, I mean, Michelle had gone off and played with the national program for a little bit. Catherine Plouffe had been injured and couldn't go, so she stayed back with us. They both grew in leaders in different ways, which was really fun for them. Colburn was just a phenomenal scorer, and was a really good teammate throughout the whole experience. But people forget, like, Saskia Van Genhoven was on that team. She ends up being an All-Canadian. Jamie Norum was a really good point guard. She ended up being ultimately having a kind of a tragic career in university because she got injured so many times. But Adut Bulgak came off the bench on that team. She got drafted in the WNBA. So
I remember that kid. Yeah, she was
yeah.
athletic as heck. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and so we had just an unbelievable core of kids that had, again, they'd all grown up together and been together for a while, and maybe we've just been lucky enough to be around that kind of group of kids. But that was a fun group to coach and a great experience for Alberta. Certainly, as a small province at that time, to win a national championship was really cool.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your coaching philosophy. What type of system are you guys running? Would you guys like, what are your goals at the beginning of the year when you talk to your team about what you're trying to achieve, like on the court?
Yeah, I mean, everything at our school starts with you better make nationals. So you just better get there. So how are we going to do that? And each year is going to be unique. When I talk to athletes, I think our offensive philosophy has probably changed a lot over the years based on the personnel we've had, type of ways they can score. As an example, like when we lost Emma this year, at the beginning of the year, she's a great scorer, would have been a first team Canada West All-Star if she'd stayed healthy, I think. But she was really ball dominant for us, and we looked to her, and the team really relied on her to score. And then she went down, but we were pretty big, so we decided to play bigger. And while everyone else was getting smaller, we decided to go large and play as many big kids as we could, as much as we possibly could. So honestly, like, our offense philosophy probably changes a lot year to year based on personnel. Defensively, I've been a pretty predominant man-to-man coach and some pressure and try to be physical and rebound tough. And so mostly just trying to find a style of play that I think kids are going to enjoy and are they going to have fun doing it. Getting to my philosophy of coaching, I just want to have fun. Every single day we want to have this be a fun experience. It is too hard to do at the university level to not enjoy the daily work you got to put in. And so we're just every day trying to find a way that's going to help them improve as athletes, improve as a person, but also that they're going to enjoy this experience of playing sport, because most of them are only going to do it for so long. And you want to, and honestly, they don't look back. We go to alumni events, you probably have kids come back to see you at school too. Like, they don't remember the games. Like, they remember the big events, right? They remember the big moments in your career. And so, we're trying to create those moments, as many opportunities as we can on a daily basis, so that they have something really proud that they can look back on. I would say that's more of what we're trying to get out of the season. And then, we look at our roster and just say, look, like, here's what we think we can achieve. We have really honest, open talks about what we think we're capable of. They know what they got themselves into when they came here. They know that the athletic department's not going to be so happy if we don't make it. And so they really know what they're getting into when they get here, and they know what the goal is every single season. We've got to make that tournament or put ourselves in a position to do so. And if, shots fall, shots don't fall some nights and you don't make it, that's fine. But put yourself in position every year to get there.
Absolutely. So one of the questions I've been asking people is, if you could go back in time and give young Scott a little bit of advice, what type of, like, thoughts are you giving this guy and telling him, hey, maybe take a look at this?
Yeah. I don't think I've done a very good job over my entire life of being very organized. It's kind of crazy as a basketball coach, but I'm definitely not a type A person. So I think my type A athletes sort of struggle with me once in a while, which is unique in sport, right? So I would say that, I married a German girl. That's probably what I did in my life. That was the best thing I did. It was a German woman who's got me
locked in.
Yeah, she's got me locked in now. But I wish I had, maybe met her a few years earlier than that, got my act together earlier.
Yeah, and so how do you notice that that's made an impact on the way that you coach?
Yeah, I think that I've had to really listen to my athletes and understand what they need. I think that's something that I'm still getting better at, or trying to every single day, is listening more and talking less and allowing their experience to take precedent. And that's something that I've definitely gotten better at in the last 10 years than I would have. Like, that first year at U of A, that team probably would have told you I coach totally different than I do now. And I hope I do. I think it's really important that I'm taking everything that their experience of their careers and trying to make the best experience I can for them. But I've got to listen to what they need and want from me, and then put that on the floor for them, or even the off the court stuff and in the weight room. I've got to create experiences for them that they really need. And so I definitely, probably getting married really helped me with that, listening to my wife more and really understanding how to make this experience what our athletes want is my priority now.
No, and that's a game changer, because I think as you get older, that becomes a priority for sure. I mean,
Totally.
It just does. And
Yeah.
and it also creating a positive experience. What I think a big differentiator in the CIS from what I'm seeing is the schools that have endowments and the schools that don't have endowments.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people take it seriously enough, to be honest with you, because if you have an endowment and people donate to it because they take it seriously, and because their experience at university was meaningful to them, and they give back to the community that they were a part of, it's a game changer. I mean, I was talking when we did our interview with Deb, I know it's made a huge impact on her career, and having all the support of all the people that have been there for such a long time. I know it's been a huge impact for Bruce. I don't know very many guys in Ontario, but I think it's such a huge thing. So creating that positive experience, if everyone's pissed off when they leave, they ain't coming back to help you out in the future. So it's kind of a circle. Last question of the day.
Sure.
Talk about one level of adversity you had to overcome to get to where you are today. So like a key point in your life where you were like, okay, I got to figure this out, and then it's going to be okay if I can do that.
Yeah. Well, if you think back on the story I told at the beginning around how I got started in coaching, I don't have the luxury of spending 5 to 8 years on the bench with some iconic coach in British Columbia where I grew up, when there's so many. We could talk about them all day long, but I didn't have that opportunity. I didn't have that opportunity in Edmonton to sit with and work with people and learn from them, and then figure out who I was going to be. So my big adversity was basically on-the-job training. My entire career has been on-the-job training. And so when we were 0-24, 2-22, 6-18 at Concordia, you never forget those seasons, right? Because they're the ones that really build you who you're going to be. And if you want to do this well, if you want to create the experience that you think your athletes deserve, I had to be better. And so that adversity I had early in my coaching career was all around just how can I be better for my athletes, admitting mistakes to them, taking ownership of the things that I wasn't getting done properly, but going out and doing the work, right? So I was into everything I could possibly do as a young coach. And I would go out to national team camps when Richie was running junior national team camp, and I would run the clock and pick up water and do whatever and just observe when I could. I was doing that the same before that as a provincial team experience. Before they'd even hire me in the provincial team program, I was going and helping out at tryouts with 15s and 17s, just learning from as many coaches as I could. Getting on then as an assistant coach with provincial team with Donna Branch, who was the University of Lethbridge coach at the time, was instrumental to me in that early part of the 2000s to help me in my coaching. And then I realized, okay, maybe this is something, as my teams got better, maybe this is something I could do as a job instead of coaching and teaching. Maybe I could just coach, and maybe this could be the path I could go down. And that's what I chose to try to do. But I had all that adversity at the beginning was all around just trying to do it on the job at the time and not mess it up too bad. So,
well, it's worked out pretty good, so we'll take it.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you out there on the court soon, hopefully.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.